What do you think are the fundamentals for a top sales professional to polish even more, to get even better?
Don't have this crazy presentation that is making you sound like a sales cyborg. You said something back in a minute ago. If you want people to be interested in you, you need to be interested and interesting to them.
So the year was 2008. I was a senior in high school and I got into door-to-door sales. And this was my first manager, Mr. Chris Munizzi. Chris, super excited to have you here on today's episode.
Yes.
As we're going to get into the nitty-gritty and talk about what sales really is. You've been a commission-based salesperson since what year?
1987.
Since 1987, so I was born in 1989. And I want to talk a little bit about your journey. I want to talk a little bit about how salespeople can improve and the different ways that you think. Because Chris is not only one of my original managers, but one of my mentors and somebody that has a lot of sauce. If you're not taking notes, it's like eating spaghetti with a spoon. You're going to get a lot on you.
But not a lot in you.
But not a lot in you. So let's get into it. Tell me a little bit about your story when you first got into sales and a little bit about your journey.
Well, I got into sales because the whole modeling thing didn't work out for me. So I tried to get on the cover of GQ, and I got on the back page of GWiz and figured I'd get into sales. My mom only laughs at that story when I tell her that. Anyway, got into sales because I just was a really good student. And I knew that the professional, teacher, post office, police officer thing wasn't for me. And my first sales job was, valet parking. At Valet Park, that was my first job. And unfortunately, I got let go from that because I discovered the Mitsubishi 3000 GT VR4 twin turbo car and crashed it into a fence. It was a long time ago though. Then I got a job at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, worked there for a while, and I couldn't stay there because I wasn't pursuing a 4-year degree. So they let me go, and I tried to take the Series 7. I got a 69 the first time, and I got a 68 the second time. So at that point, the guy I was studying with said, you probably need to just go sell cars. And I ended up on a car lot in, 1993, but we'll get back to that in a second. Forgot, in between that, I did meat sales door to door. So worked for a guy named Kiefer's Meat Supply and sold meat door to door from like 1987. I was 17 to 1989. And then I blew the transmission out in his 5-speed Mazda truck. So he fired me. So here's the first story. You can go from 0 to hero. Am I looking at this one? You can go from 0 to hero. You could be fired from jobs. You could be outcasted, but you could still make it. So I wasn't always this bad, but this is the story, right? So I go to another job, and I finally get the sales job that I had dreamed about, right? Selling cars in New York. So we had a manager there. His name was Joe Penna. We used to call him Joey the Neck because he was like head and butt. He had no neck. And he would cuss like a sailor. He would chain smoke in the room, in the showroom. He was funny. He really was. He was a vulgar, cussing, Godfather type of guy. He would drink the same white coffee cup from the Roach Coach. That's the coffee truck. He'd drink it for about 8 hours. He'd continue to microwave it till the cup just like shredded it away. So we were in the lot one day and we were taking sales ups. And this is where my first aha moment in sales came. We were taking sales ups in the parking lot. And that's when the customer pulls in the parking lot and you pretty much accost them at their car and open the car door for them. So I took my first sales up and a gentleman pulls in the parking lot and he's wearing a scrunchies, like doctor stuff. And he's smoking a pipe. Clearly not a cancer doctor, right? He gets out, he goes, my name's Fred Courtney, Dr. Courtney, and, I'd like to renew my lease on my Explorer. And it was like a 1992 Ford Explorer, probably at that time more than the house that I lived in. and the payment was probably more than the mortgage of the house that I lived in. So I got a little scared, and I went inside and tried to give them away to somebody, and Joe the Neck did not like that. So he cussed me out, called me some names. He said, just go out and show him a car. So I went up to Dr. Courtney. Hey, my name is Chris. I'll be showing you some cars. What would you like to see? He goes, I'd like to see this exact car in the newer model with all the bells and whistles. And I'm like, gosh, that's got to be like $45,000. Go in the back, pull up a car. We go for a ride. He's smoking his pipe in this brand new car, which I thought was pretty hysterical. Didn't care. And we were talking about, sales. We were talking about stuff. I was trying to build rapport with him. Funny story. I told him how when I got my wisdom teeth pulled, there was a really hot girl working in the office, and when they asked my weight to judge the anesthetic that I needed, I lied by about 40 pounds. Woke up in the middle of the surgery while the guy was operating my mouth. Dr. Courtney thought that was pretty funny. So we pull back to the parking lot, and now the moment of truth. I got to bring him in, I got to sit him down, and I got to tell him what the payment's going to be, right? Sit him down at the table. Joe's like, bring me up to the podium, the tower. He's like, all right, okay, the payment's going to be $975 with no money down. I am like panting. I'm like shivering in my body. I'm like, $975 a month? He's like, yeah, $975 a month. I was like, I can't do that, Joe. Just give them to someone else. Give them to someone else. That's, I was driving a Pontiac Sunbird, and I think the loan was $106 with insurance a month. So he goes, don't worry about it. He goes, you know what a Maserati is, right? I'm like, yeah. He goes, he's got a Maserati. His Maserati payment is $1,500 a month. Just go tell him the payment. And I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, it's a red one. Okay. I went up, sat down. I said, hey, Dr. Courtney, your payment is $975 a month. With first payment and taxes, we will tint your windows, and that's the extra mileage lease. He goes, okay, cool. I'll pick it up tomorrow. Signs the paper, blows some smoke in my face for credibility. And I said, oh, by the way, when you come tomorrow, can you bring your Maserati? And he looked at me and said, what? Your Maserati, your red Maserati, can you bring it? I'd love to see it. I'm a big car nut. He goes, what are you smoking? I don't have a Maserati. And he walks out of the garage, the showroom, and I look up and I see Joe like buried his head over the little bit of the counter. You could just see his bald head with one piece of hair sticking up. And I looked at him and I said, well, Joe, what is that all about? He goes, Chris, a good deal is a state of mind. You had the state of mind that you could not sell this man, so I had to get your belief system up that you could. You thought you had a $1,500 payment, so you had no problem dropping a $975 payment. So I pretty much had to lie to you to get you to where you're supposed to be. So a good deal is a state of mind. Just keep your mind right. And that was like my first venture into sales. So like I said, 37 years, we could sit here for hours.
Major aha moment there. A good opportunity or a good deal is a state of mind. If you have that inner belief on how you're going to actually help the families that you serve, it's a lot easier to be able to communicate and persuade. So you've been involved with door-to-door direct selling, for 30, 40 years, a good portion of your life. What type of advice would you give to somebody maybe in their first year of door-to-door sales, or somebody striving to be great at sales? I think the reason there's so much mediocrity in selling is because so many people don't train, and training eliminates trying. But what type of advice would you give to somebody that says, hey, I want to get to the top? Because anybody could be successful in door-to-door sales or any sort of sales gig for a year, but how could somebody last decades and be able to be at the top of their field?
Well, they say what you do occasionally will change nothing every time, right? Nugget for you guys. Studying occasionally changes nothing. Dieting occasionally changes nothing. Working out occasionally changes nothing. I believe in the Tony Robbins method of immersion, right? So if you're going to be a car salesman, you better know every model, every package, every option, every code, every color, every deleted, option that is not good on this one. I have a couple Corvettes, and that's a big thing. Certain Corvettes can't have certain things, and the salesman didn't know that. So know your product, right? So becoming a product of the product, immersing yourself in the training, following experts in the field, right? If you're going to go get a haircut, right? Are you going to go to the beauty studio and say, hey, who just got out of haircutting school? You want to cut my hair? No. You're going to look for an expert, right? So expert in the field, immerse yourself, becoming a product of the product if it's something that you can, and just living life like your fullest, right? You know, instead of going out on Friday night, get on YouTube and nerd out on your product. Getting in books, you know, watching podcasts, videos. You know, if you look at my YouTube history, it's Knoxar, 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 like now. You know, my church, my pastor, then a bunch of car videos, and then Knoxar, 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 right? It's just, that's my learning is even now at this point, I'm still immersing myself. It's a lifelong journey being a sales professional. It's a lifelong journey dealing with others in the sales profession, right? John Maxwell calls it the 360-degree leader, right? You're leading yourself, you're leading your peers, you're leading the clients, you're leading your manager, you're leading your family, you're hitting it from every angle. And if you are not fully prepared in the product that you sell, if you are not like a master's degree in that, you're going to lose, right? So it took me a while, and I see some books on the shelf here, Curious George and the Man with the Yellow Hat and Green Eggs and Ham, classic sales books, classic books of how I got started. You know, those books had a lot of impact on me, and people laugh, but they really did. So I know that was kind of a long answer. You're going to get that with me, unfortunately, because I have a lot to share. But just, you know, immersion, you know, product of the product, repetition, right? Repetition is the mother of all learning, and product knowledge.
Money. And, you know, we're talking about Curious George back here. You know, we have to create that curiosity. If they tell you they're not interested, well, you want to get them interested. You have to be interesting. And the other one back here is Green Eggs and Ham, because, you know, a lot of people don't realize the average yes comes after the 5th to 8th consecutive closing attempt. And I think that's something that a lot of salespeople lack, is they don't transition enough, whether it's transitioning to the next part of the sale or to try to transition into the home or to try to transition to actually ask for the sale. And the other thing is like taking it away. I feel like so many salespeople are just pushing when they need to be pulling. And a lot of the time you're in this point where it's like a clash where, you know, you're trying to change their mind when realistically it's probably better to change their mood to actually have them hear what you say. It's not the words that we say, it's the music that they hear. So what are some fundamentals that you think are very critical for somebody besides the things that you've mentioned? You know, if I'm on the doors, let's say I'm a pretty good salesperson and I'm like the top 20% of my office, but I say, hey, I want to be the number 1 person in my office. What do you think are the fundamentals for a top sales professional to polish even more, to get even better?
Training, right? Immersion, you know, following people like yourself, reading, finding the best people in their field and following what they do, taking a little bit of each of the people, you know, in the fields, the Taylor McCarthy's, the Mike O'Donnell's, et cetera, and taking a little, you know, mix of all that and creating your own. And also doing something that's fun. You know, don't have this crazy presentation that is making you sound like a sales cyborg. Create something that's easy to roll off your tongue, right? Something that you can have a discussion without sounding like a cyborg. You know, you said something back in a minute ago. If you want people to be interested in you, you need to be interested and interesting to them, right? When the 10th salesperson is knocked on the door and it's Taylor McCarthy and the spouse is like, why are you giving this guy your bill? We don't do that with solar people. I don't know, something's interesting about this guy. No, we don't give bills to door-to-door people, honey. We made that exception 9 salespeople ago. Yeah, this guy was different. He was interested. He was interesting. Like, he didn't tell me that he fished. He asked why I like to fish. He asked what made me fish, like what brought me back to that place. What do I feel like when I look at that fishing pole that's mounted in the garage? Or what does it feel like when I see that Boston Red Sox pennant, you know, poster? You know, does it remind me of, the Yankees and the Red Sox, or does it remind me of times with my grandfather or family when I was younger? Like, I don't know. The guy's just different, right? So if you really want to peel back the onion to people, you just got to be different. So an expert salesperson, when you get to that apex in sales, become a psychologist, right? I think my buddy Taylor McCarthy said, sales is a Broadway play performed by psychologists.
Yes, sir.
Is that what you said?
Yes, sir. A Broadway show played by a psychologist.
Right. So become a sales pro, become a people pro, and become a pro at people's, their brains, right? People want to hear their own name. They want to be heard, right? Stephen Covey says, seek to understand, not to be understood. So in other words, shut up and let the customer talk.
Love it. And we talked a lot on our last episode about persuasion. And, it sounds like we're kind of going into, we like to say, the art of blending these opposites. Communication, it's not what I say, it's not how I say it, it's how I can make that family feel. And then persuasion, which is asking the right questions to solve somebody's problem, but just constantly weaving in and out between these two, I guess, concepts to be able to create the decision in closing. And one thing we talked about with persuasion is there's 3 ways to persuade. The first way is by making statements. The second way is by asking questions. And then the third way is utilizing silence in the presentation.
I'm glad you said that because I forgot what the third one was. See, you don't know everything all the time.
Utilizing silence.
Talk about that for a minute.
Well,
for me. Let me learn.
Well, let's look at it like this. If I ask a question and then I remain silent, then I can get more out of the buyer. And then utilizing, hey, what else? And then getting them to think even more. With one of my speaking coaches, he mentioned, utilizing silence during group persuasion or a speaking event, where if I wanted to persuade the group, for example, to take notes, I might say, hey, you guys might want to take a pen out and write this down. And then I'm silent. And now what are people going to do? They're going to, well, let me take a pen. I need to start. Because you're taking them through that process. But by making these statements and then asking the questions, if I ask a question and then I'm silent after asking the question, what is it going to do? It's going to have that buyer think a little bit. And remember, if we say it, people will tend to doubt it. If they say it, then it's true. And I think the average buyer, the smart buyer, if you sound like every other salesperson that comes and talks to them, they're going to tend not to listen to you. And going back to, if I say it, they doubt it. But if you say it, it's true. And then you're like, hey, tell me a little bit more about that. Like, what else? Well, we're sick and tired of the utility company, increasing the rates. Well, what else? Well, it would be nice to have control and predictability. It would be nice to have control and predictability, but what do you think is the reason that this would be a better program for you rather than just continuing to stay with the utility company? And now it's getting that buyer to think even more. And as the buyer thinks more, then they're going to have to verbalize things. And as they verbalize things, that's how we create the decisions, because they think a certain way, words come out of their mouth, they have that emotion, they have the feeling, they judge what's happening in that situation, and they make that decision. And I think for a lot of sales professionals, they have anxiety, they have stress, they have these what ifs, and I think anxiety is the acid that wipes out somebody's enthusiasm. And enthusiasm is 51% of the sales process. So the same way when I knock on somebody's door and the anxiety's way up here and the certainty's way down here, like, oh my gosh, door-to-door salesman. Our job is to shift that, eliminate the client's fear, false evidence appearing real, and to be able to help them relax through the process. Because I think the biggest hidden objection that all salespeople face is, well, I don't want to get screwed. Or what's the catch?
Yeah.
So being able to really serve and help families, I think that's the greatest thing. And, Tom Hopkins says, like, could you sell anything? He's like, well, no, I couldn't sell anything. I could only sell if I actually believed in that product and had that conviction on why it makes sense. And I think it starts with clarity. We talk about that a lot. Clarity, repetition, energy, belief, service being 5 of the most important fundamentals that it takes to be a top sales professional. But like for a lot of people, we like to say, they're wishbones. They want to be successful. You got the jawbones that talk about it. You got the knuckle bones that, are checking their Facebook right now instead of facing their
their
checkbook. And you got the backbones that are sitting there with a pen and a piece of paper saying, hey, what can I do to become the best version of myself? Because ultimately we are in the people business.
Mic drop. Is there a mic I can drop, please? Okay. Yeah, totally. I mean, you totally just.
You mentioned having fun. You know, that's a big thing.
Yeah, having fun.
Having fun with what we do because, like, how would you, what would you say to a salesperson? And, you know, after I make this statement, you know, a salesperson could reach their highest high or their lowest low within a 24-hour period. And when these
they do.
They do. When a salesperson reaches their lowest lows, or they're like, "What am I doing going door to door?" Because like door-to-door sales is not easy. 99% of people don't do this because 99% of people couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
But what would you say to somebody that might be going through a little bit of a rough patch right now that's saying, hey, I need to reset. I need to get better at sales?
Well, one thing about me is the connection I have with the people that I work with. I generally know where they've come from in life, you know. And let's be real. I mean, if you have a Harvard, you know, MBA graduate, you're Mark Zuckerberg, you're probably not knocking doors, right? So for me, I'll speak of me. My story, my family, you know, was not always great, right? So I would say nothing is good or bad unless it's compared to something else. So depending on the person, I might be able to like, hey, Bob, remember, you know, 2 years ago, you had that drinking problem. You were in that toxic relationship. You were living in a house with 5 dudes sharing one toothbrush. Now you're just having a bad day, and your floor could be someone else's ceiling, right? Or did I say that backwards? Your floor could be someone else's ceiling. No, I said that right. So, Bob, it's okay to have a bad day, right? Because that means good days are coming, right? Maybe I have them sing the No 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 song, right? I have them just get to a place where they're comparing.
What's the No 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 song?
Oh, we'll get to that. You know, it's a little song about no no nos and, you know, going out in the field and just having some fun. Maybe we'll do that at the end. You know, it's by request only, and I only do it for him. But I want to answer your question. You know, sales guys, we go on these tangents. But yeah, I would just say, hey, man, 2 years ago you were working at Best Buy, 9 to 5. You had to ask when it was time to take a piss, or, you know, you were making $8 an hour, or you were working for that other company where the manager stole all your leads, or, hey, you have a great life and everything's been perfect for you, and it just sucks right now. Good news. I'm here to help you, right? I'm here to walk you through that, right? At least you're going through bad times with somebody. And, you know, why do we make so much money selling a free savings from the sun? It's because of the part of the job that you're talking about, the account progression. Oh, the permits aren't back. Oh, they bought the wrong stuff. Mm-hmm. Of course, man. Why do you think you make $8,000 to $15,000 a job because you're selling a free savings from the sun? No, you're getting paid to be emotionally available for the customer, for the client, and for yourself. This is where you earn your money. So get back out and go do your thing.
So we're paid in direct proportion to the problems that we can solve.
Yes.
And that's why I started to kind of reverse think. Hey, I don't help people go solar for commission. I do that out of a good willingness to actually help people because I know it can better their situation. But when somebody legitimately tells me that they don't want to go through the process and continue to be at the mercy of the power company, that's when I'm fist pumping. Like, wow, that was $500 right there. We have paid for the no's to be able to get to the yeses. But even when we help somebody through the process, it's almost like, hey, I did that out of a good willingness to actually help these people because it genuinely puts them into a better situation.
You could be one of the 7, you could be one of the 3. It doesn't matter to me either way. My job is just to explain it and move on.
Let's go.
One of the 3. You're one of the 3. Yes. I knew you were one of them. Thank you so much for being one of the 3.
So what we're talking about here is the communication, the persuasion, being able to build the rapport, you know, good opportunities, being a state of mind, and fundamentals that it takes to be a top sales professional. Now let's change gears a little bit and talk a little bit about leadership. You know, if you've been involved with the direct sales space, you know, I'm probably sure that you've dealt with every different type of personality with managing and to being able to help people get to that next level in their career. But first, let's start off with the word leadership. What does the word leadership mean to you? And what are some fundamentals that somebody could take from listening to how to become a better leader?
Well, influence is the first one that comes to mind. Ownership. I'm your leader. I take ownership for your loss. I take ownership for not teaching you properly, right? Influence, ownership, accountability, love, trust. I'm a big love guy. I love my people, sometimes to a fault. And you do deal with a lot of different types. I was talking to my co-regional Corey about this yesterday. If we could write a book of all the people, that we visited, that visited us on this journey. I'm not going to say any names, but this guy, remember this guy with that problem, and then this guy, and then that girl, and this guy and girl, and it's just it's totally unbelievable. And sometimes I go home, I have my little chair that overlooks my pool and the lake I live on, and I sit in my chair sometimes. I don't know if you've ever seen Godfather 2 at the end when Michael Corleone's sitting in the chair and he's leaning down, and you could tell he's like, "What did I get myself involved with?" So leadership is a very, very big word with some very big shoes to fill, right? I'm Joe's leader. I'm Sally's leader. I'm Taylor's leader. Okay, what does that mean? That means, your house needs to be in order. Your financial house, your spiritual house, your emotional house. Not everyone has a perfect marriage. I get that. But if your leader's like, I'm just going to throw this out there, a cheating fool, you may want to look at that, how he handles his family, how he treats his children or she, right? I pride myself in having my house in order. Big thing for me, as you know, has always been my health journey. This job literally takes all that you have sometimes and you neglect your health. So I finally said to myself, my house is not in order. That's part of my house. My temple that God has given me is part of my house. So leadership to me means a lot more than just influence. It means almost like a lifestyle, right? You become a leader and you really don't go back. I'm a Christian, so I go to church, and I hear about sometimes pastors retiring. You don't really retire. You're a pastor. You're a pastor. You're a leader. You don't retire. You just evolve, right? You lead different people. You lead different groups. I won't say when I'm 80 years old, I used to be a leader in the 60s. No, maybe when I'm 80, I'll be leading 60-year-olds or whatever, 50-year-olds. Who knows? But to me, leadership is a thing I take very seriously. I'm very grateful for that. I feel God has custom made me to have the understanding and the patience for people who aren't perfect, because I am the product of 100 chances. I don't know, 2 chances, 3 chances. I'm far from perfect. I'm not perfect now. God's perfect. He sits on the throne in heaven. Only perfect person to me is God, right? So I strive to be like him. And I just hope that my people will see that, right? When I'm talking to them. And it's frustrating sometimes because you'll tell them something that is for their own good and they just won't listen. Sometimes they're not going to.
Yeah.
So if you're a leader and you're listening in, the truth is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Our job as leaders is to protect our people from the bad decisions they make, And I still learn. I had a situation with a family member recently passed away, and there was a question about the visitation of a funeral of my child. Just being very open. I didn't feel comfortable doing that, and speaking to one of my managers, one of my co-people, and who's a lot younger than me, like more than half my age. He's like, "You need to do it because the memory will be there." So I ended up doing it. My wife's like, "What changed?" Well, I spoke to somebody. So that was pretty much me as a leader, twice the age of that person, taking their wisdom and like really thinking about it, and then taking the wisdom my wife imparted and say, "You know what? I'm not better than these 2 people. If both of these people who I care for a lot are saying do this, do it." Real leaders won't do that. They'll be like, "It's my way or the highway." No, it's not.
Really powerful stuff right there as we talk about leadership. Now, what do you think is the major thing that's holding people back? So there's one thing that's holding somebody's back or holding their back, and they really want to be a top achiever, but maybe they're a wishbone, maybe they're a jawbone, and they're like, "Hey, I want to do all these things," but they have something holding them back. What would you say to that type of person?
It could be you as a leader, maybe. You know, I'm definitely not perfect. It could be the burning desire inside of them, right? Getting that burning desire. I just need to take a drink, excuse me.
Yeah, you talk about, having a kryptonite that might hold you back and, getting vulnerable with yourself to be able to get yourself to that next level in business or in sales or in life.
Kryptonite, yeah, what is it? Toxic family member, diet, alcohol, weed, girlfriends, boyfriends, church. Maybe, you went to church and someone offended you at church. Customer got in your head, in your feelings. You're not making money. Your leader's stealing money from you, whatever. It could be who knows, right? But there's so many things that we can do to fix that, right? Mm-hmm. And, it's a great responsibility. It really is. What does it say in the Bible? He who thinks they're a leader and no one's following him is just taking a walk, right? Mm-hmm. I'm a leader of who? Now, if you're doing the same thing over and over every day as a leader and nothing's changing, you're not a leader, you're a history teacher. It's a little nugget for you guys. You keep repeating the same thing over and over, you're a history teacher.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people that are in the game of sales, they genuinely want to be good. They want to be in the top 1%. They want to be able to go knock 5 doors and sell 2 people. But I think a lot of people procrastinate. They ruin their future. They avoid the present and they live in the past because they want to be a Pop-Tart salesperson. They want to put something in the microwave for 15 seconds and expect to be great. But that willingness to actually pay the price that it takes over time to be able to actually up-level not only the way that they think, but the way that they perform. And I think the way that they perform, the way that they think is what they're putting inside of them, that mental protein on a day-to-day basis. It's like we're growing or dying. Our life is like a stock. You get better or worse. There's no neutral within that process. But it just comes down to whether or not somebody wants to actually take action. You talked a little bit about, having that ardent or burning desire. I think that that's the starting point of all achievement, is having that deep down desire, because if your why doesn't make you cry, or if you don't know who you're doing something for, it's really hard to maintain discipline. And if you don't have the discipline, it's hard to demonstrate. You don't demonstrate, you're never going to document and have a story. You don't document, you're not duplicating, you're not disappearing and continuing to up level your game. So I think for a lot of people, it's just about making that decision to say, hey, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I understand that I'm going to commit now. I'm going to figure it out later. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to put on my blinders. I'm going to cut out the distractions. And I'm going to focus on doing the most productive things at every given moment.
Burning desire to set your checkbook on fire.
Yes, sir.
Right? You must have a burning desire. You must be willing to do anything it takes, right? The job title is, there is no job title as long as it's legally, morally, and ethically correct. That's the job title.
Okay, well, let's get into a little bit more of the sauce here. What are some one-liners that you could give me to help somebody think differently, whether it's on the doors or whether it's something that they could say to start thinking differently? Some one-liners. You got some for me?
Oh my gosh. I mean, what you do occasionally will change nothing every time, right? You talk about becoming a product of the product being better, changing your entertainment to education, right? When your friend Bob calls you up on Friday night, Bob's that guy that carries his net worth in his front pocket, and Bob wants to go out for beer and wings at Beef O'Brady's, and you're like, hey, I should probably stay home and study some Taylor McCarthy trainings or read Green Eggs and Ham, and Bob's like, oh, come on, man, it's $5 pitchers of some terrible beer, and all you can eat wings. I'm stacking. I just got paid. I just went to Amscott and cashed my paycheck, paid the $9 fee because I don't have a bank account, but I'm ready to go. So, is that your starting 5? Is that the person you want to go with? Do you want to go hang out at Beef O'Brady's with Bob? Or do you want to get, crazy on YouTube and, turn your education, entertainment into education, right? That was one I learned from one of your Knoxar people.
Let's go.
And if you're not in Knoxar, you need to get your head checked. Knoxar is the bar association for salespeople. Wow, I just came up with that. If you're a lawyer, you're protected by the bar association. If you're a sales guy or gal, or old young gal or old whatever, and you're not in Knoxar, you need to get your head checked. You're never too good to get better. You're never too good to get better. You could always get better. You could always refresh. Heck, there's stuff that you were talking and I was going to say, and by the time it was my turn, I forgot it because there's just so much in my brain after 40 years of nuggets, right? So get involved with Knoxar. Hey, if you don't want to get involved with Knoxar, get into something, right? Get into a community that's going to hold you accountable and make you better. And also honor you for the work that you've done. You know, it's so nice to do a Knoxar call and get the inbox blown up. I'll say it. Yeah, it feels great. Man, that was great. Thank you. I hadn't heard it like that before. I love when you do this. It really makes all of those Friday nights where I didn't go out for beer and wings with Bob all worth it when I sat home and watched YouTube. And I would never, just for any of my friends and family watching now, you don't have to worry. I'm not going out for beer and wings with Bob ever. Never going back there. So, yeah, I mean, what you do occasionally changes, nothing every time. That's a big one for me. Your talk talks and your walk talks, but your talk talks more than your walk talks, right? You said it earlier. I hear what you're saying, but what you do speak so loudly, I can't hear the words that you say, right? The best sermon you will give is with your life, not your lips. I see that with you. You're one of the only sales trainers that are still out there making plays on the doors. You have hundreds of thousands, well, thousands of followers. I don't exaggerate, but I know 25,000 on YouTube, over 50, 60,000 on Instagram. I would say you've arrived, but you're still out there knocking doors, getting your head kicked in with 6 or 7 people following you and in kitchens with dogs sitting on your lap. And I'm like, man, this guy, he's still out there. So you're truly like the example, you know?
Yeah, and one thing that I really admire about Chris is we love to say a salesperson is first off a person that can sell themselves to themselves.
Right.
And the number one goal of a really good sales leader is selling the salesperson on selling. So really think about what I'm saying here. If a salesperson, first off, is a person that can sell themselves to themselves, and the job of a great sales manager is selling a salesperson on selling, once sales becomes your video game, once it becomes something that you love to do, once you make that decision, a lot of people say, what's the greatest sale that you've ever made, Taylor? And I'll say, the greatest sale I've ever made was making the decision to become a professional salesperson. And I remember when I was 18 years old working at 2020 Communications after I was a golf caddy, and I was like, I'm a salesman. You know, we're the highest paid profession in the world. You can have the doctors, the dentists, the lawyers, the athletes, and the salesperson out earns all of them combined. So thinking about that, I think a lot of salespeople are now scared to say, oh, I'm in sales, or I do door-to-door sales, because the majority of people don't like salespeople because we are ultimately mislabeled from day one and we should have been called servants. But be proud to be in sales, love the game that you're in. And when you love the game that you're in, you're never going to work another day in your life. And when you don't work and you're not grinding, then you're not maintaining, and maintaining will become exhausting in anything. We say 99% of people don't do sales or door-to-door specifically because they couldn't handle it. Well, maintaining is exhausting. Building is energizing. The secret ingredient to building is figuring out a way to have fun, because if you're not having fun, it's not worth it. If you're not doing business with people you want to do life with, you're going to go into maintenance mode. So it's like, for everybody listening here, like, it's building your life, building your wealth, building your health. Really, we're all in the people business. So the harder we work on ourselves, the better that we are in our profession. And then it's just like this game that you play. And then you're like, wow, like, this is a good paycheck, but that's just a way to keep the score. And then your score just keeps getting higher and higher. But I think if you're ever working and you feel like, oh, I've got to go out and knock doors, or I have to do this, you don't have to do anything. You get to do these things. And that's the mindset shift that will really make the difference for somebody that's saying, hey, how do I last a year, 2 years, or 3 years? Anybody could be successful for a year, 2 years, 3 years. You know, I spent 18 years in this field. Chris has spent 40. So, I mean, we're talking about 50, 60 years of combined experience in direct selling, which a lot of people couldn't even last a week to do. And I love a lot of what Chris is explaining here, because he decided to marry the game. He decided to say, wow, I learned this new one-liner. I'm going to add it to my bag. I'm going to teach my people this. and then it keeps it fun. And I think that's the best thing about what we do as sales professionals.
Let's go back for a second. You talked about being proud. I love the sales, gig that we do. So I'm a comfy clothes guy. I like comfy sweats. I like, I'm from New York. I like my Adidas tracksuits, and I've been blessed to fly first class once in a while, and I've been blessed with a couple of nice watches, and there's nothing better than sitting in a first class, on the aisle, and I have the nice watch on, and I'm wearing sweatpants and sneakers, and the guy across the aisle, he's dressed to the nines, his hair is so tight it could, pop a hole in the roof of the plane, and everything is manicured to the T, and he looks over, he's like, nice watch, what do you do? I'm like, I sell door to door. Get him another drink. I'm like, no, I'm not drinking, sir. He goes, no, what do you do? I'm like, I sell door to door. And at that point, he's leaning in the aisle, there's an aisle there. He'll kind of shift the other way, take his Wall Street Journal and say, nice meeting you. And I always love that. I love the fact that door to door guys sitting next to me in first class. You know how many traffic jams I had to sit in, and how many hours I had to wake up at 4 a.m. and be at the office at 8 to get this first class seat, and this bum in sweatpants with a nice watch and door to door. I love it. I'm so proud of what the industry is. I'm so proud to be a salesperson. Eric Youre, he's a network marketing guy, but he has a book called Becoming a Sales Pro, where sales is a profession. What do you do? I'm a salesperson. No one ever says that. I'm in medical sales, or I sell solar. No one wants to say I'm a salesperson. I sell door to door. I do it because I love the shock factor. Yeah, I sell door to door,
Hey, we solicit door to door.
Yeah.
Hey, having people tell you to get a real job is not amazing. Knocking in freezing cold is not amazing. Knocking in 110-degree heat is not amazing. Having somebody slam the door in your face is not amazing. But what is amazing is lasting decades as a sales professional, making it your career, but also all the people that you're able to serve throughout that process. The families.
Tom Hopkins, right? Unbelievable. Tom, that word has got me through so much. How was the day, honey? It was unbelievable. How was the install today? Oh, it was unbelievable. How is that Karen that got you upset in the HOA the other day? Oh, she's unbelievable. So, I love that word. I know we went off the track, but
pretty much sums it up no matter what it is. And when we were in China, that's the only word that we knew how to say. Buka sahi. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
You say buka sahi on the crowd, you'll get them to cry. Oh, buka sahi.
It's kind of like forget about it in New York, right? Oh, that girl, forget about it. That Cadillac, forget about it. Or that food, forget about it. So that's kind of like the sales, unbelievable is forget about it. But shout out to Tom Hopkins. True mentor.
So we're talking a lot. We're talking about what it really takes to be a good sales professional, leadership, your journey, or as we like to say, the continuous journey towards the achievements of predetermined worthwhile goals. What last piece of advice would you give to everybody? And then we're definitely going to have to go into that No, No, No song that you mentioned. I know everybody's just been waiting. Make sure that you like and subscribe on this video. But what's a big piece of advice that you would leave to everybody? And then let's go into that No, No, No song.
Don't give up. Be proud of yourself. Share this opportunity with as many people as possible. Be the head, not the tail. Go all in. Immerse yourself. Become an expert in the field. This is a great industry. Sales. I know there's a lot of solar people probably watching, right? If I was selling telephones and we ran out of telephones, I couldn't be a telephone salesman. So if you're selling solar, as long as the sun is shining, you have inventory, right? So seize the opportunity of the lifetime in the lifetime of the opportunity, whether that's solar, whether it's pests, whether it's roofs, whether it's satellites, whatever else people sell, seize the opportunity of the lifetime in the lifetime of the opportunity. And make sure you find a mentor. Show me your mentor and I will predict your future. If it's Taylor or Tom or me or the next person, or you have a mentor, really, really immerse yourself into becoming a good follower of somebody, and you will become a great leader. I said it to you a little earlier, the best sermon you will give is with your life, not with your lips, right? your actions will show what you're all about. Your actions will show what people what you're truly into. And as far as the No 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 song, I can't take full copyright credit for this song, but you know, in sales we get a lot of no's, and customers love to tell us no. No, I'm not interested. No, I don't buy from door-to-door salespeople. No, we want to stay with the utility and be in an abusive relationship and in a bill that we can never get rid of that will be taped to our coffin, right? But we just keep getting those no's, and those no's just $500. $500, is that what you figured? $500 a no? So, you know, you have the song Row, Row, Row Your Boat. So we have the No 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 song. It goes,
Let's sing it.
no, 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 no. No, 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 no. Yes, right? So now you keep knocking. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Yes, referral. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Yes, 2 people in the house, 2 bills, sisters, having coffee, sell them. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. HOA president who loves solar. Sold. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. You got to recruit. Guy looking to get door to door. Loves door to door. He's crazy. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Sale, last, or love. Good night.
Some do, some don't. So
So
what?
what?
Someone's waiting. You can make plays or you can make excuses, but we don't make excuses over here. We only make plays. We're here with your boy, Chris Munizzi. Super grateful to have you on today's
great.
episode. And you guys can find him on Instagram.
Yep, at CMUNIZZI. Or on Facebook, the Chris Munizzi team page, Chris MUNIZZI. You can also find me on Knoxar. If you go into Knoxar, there's a trainers tab, and there's my teaching from Tennessee, the cabin retreat last year. That was amazing. I got to speak in front of Tom and Rita Davenport and Taylor, and that's in the Knoxar. And if you can't get access to Knoxar, how could they do that?
Knoxar.com. Remember, if the only book you have is Facebook,
There's a problem.
see you guys on the next episode.